Hello guys, yes it is me and I'm back, and today we'll be making a Python tutorial on how to use variables. So what are variables? Variables are a code of data that you can hold storage. It's like kind of like a storage area where you can hold some data or hold some code that is necessary. So an example of using a variable would be like my int is equal to 90. And if I were to type my int again, I would get 90. So obviously you can see there are obviously more. You can go my int equals to my float. Float is a float value is like a decimal value. So if you I've also mentioned this in my Python tutorial 1 video where I show how you can create projects, files, and I've also given a brief intro on operations. And at the end we also create a simple calculator app using float. So leaving that aside, my float would be maybe 456,459.893. So if I were to type my float, I would get 456.893. So there's also one more thing where you can use words or letters. My input is equal to quotation marks, and then we can go Tom, enter, and if I type in my input, I get Tom. So far we are doing so good. Now there are a few keywords you cannot use in variables, and there are some rules. So why don't we have a look at these rules and see how they can help us and get a more brief understanding of variables. So I've created a bit of a Word document here, and it's on variables. So our first rule is variables must start with a letter or an underscore. Of course, most of our variables are starting with letters. The second rule is must consist of a letter, number, and underscores. So that it must consist of a letter or a number or underscores. And the third one is it must be case sensitive. So the words below are you cannot use to declare a variable. Of course, you cannot use just and, assert, break, class, continue, del, elif, else. So these are types of codes, and we will be exploring them throughout these tutorials. So and, assert, break, class is a very big one. Continue, del, elif, else, except, access, for, from, global, if, import is lambda, not, or, pass, raise, return, try, while, yield. So our main one here were elif, else, class, for, if, lambda, and return. So these are our main codes that we will be exploring throughout the video, but these are the words you cannot use whilst using variables. So remember that these are words you cannot use when using variables. So now we're going to go back into our Python. Now, before I said you cannot use things like lambda. So if I go my input and I type in equals to lambda and my input, and of course it's not working. So if I go print my input it would not work. As you can see, there's a huge error appearing. So it's not really working in our case, but yet again, that was one of the words we could not use. So that's just one of them. Some of them you cannot use, like an extra int in the front when you're typing it, like int, and then type in my int, and then go my int equals to 32, which is not working. So now we will go and try creating some variables here. So my int is equal to 9. And so now we can go and start typing it, we can go print and then go of course, and then we will go out of it, type in my int, type in my int, and use a comma, my int, and then we will go back into there and type in I am 9 years old. And of course we have to use a comma over here. So now that we've done that, if I were to go run, it should come up perfectly fine. So far so good. Now if we were to take this and copy paste it into Python console, we'll get I am 9 years old. So of course I forgot to add the S here, which I cannot change now, but if I were to do that, type in the S, enter, I am 9 years old. So as you can see, variables would be very important, and it just saved me. And now that I don't have to keep on writing 999, as I have already got my int there. Now, when just using one piece of data to store it, it would be less useful. But when using a lot, so if I were to go Control V and do I am 9 years old, we could change it to my favorite numbers are 9, 10, 15, and 20. So if we were to retype this whole thing to my favorite number and then go comma my int and then put one more comma and end it. So if we were to do that, my favorite numbers are 9, 10, 15, and 20. So this, again, it would save you quite a lot of typing, as you can just change this slowly around instead of typing it again saying 9, 10, 15, 20 inside of the print function. And remember, when using my int, do not put it inside the quotation marks, as it will think it's text and just come up writing my int. And after so you can go my favorite numbers are, and then when you're about to put in what you've wrote here, end your quotation marks and put a comma, because if I were to remove the comma, I would get an error. And then type my int and put a little comma at the end. So that's it for today's Python tutorial. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and also put down some ideas for any videos or doubts you have in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And till then, see you next time.